Is this working? Is this a thing? Are we online? Oh my god, we're live. We're live here. Okay. Um, I started a few minutes earlier because I forgot to do a test stream on Twitch. So I didn't know if I was going to encounter technical difficulties, but it was just as easy as YouTube. So awesome. How do I want to make sure that I can keep an eye on what's going on in my chat. There's my chat right there. There's my, okay, OBS is all working correctly. I got my things going on. I got, do I gotta go over here? Twitch? Twitch, what am I doing? Twitch, tell me what I'm doing. For all those who are here right now, at this very moment, I'm just making sure that everything is all set up so that at 8 p.m. exactly, I could start talking about photos. These are the photos we're going to be looking at. We'll probably only look at one of them, really. But, how can I tell who's in here right now? Who's here? Who's here? I don't know. I don't know how to tell. Where's the... Alright, I'm going to just believe that this is working correctly for now. I'm gonna have hope and dreams for a moment. Just gonna set this up on the side. We are a little bit early because things are actually working how I want them to. I'm just gonna trust that this is correct. I trust you, Twitch. Don't let me down. Hopefully everyone can hear me. My stuff is plugged in. It has to be plugged in because my webcam is working, and that's where I'm getting my sound from right now. So that has to be happening. It says I have 5 people. Oh, cool. We got a person. I just can't tell who joins unless I... Okay. No, Awesome. Okay. Cool. We got people here. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and get started. First of all, the very first thing we do at the beginning of these streams is we crack a beer. Today it's cheap PBR because that was my payment for letting a friend sit at my house and drink while he was waiting for a work meeting. So, Blue Ribbon beer. We're doing this. Okay. So today I'm going to be going over some high-end retouching techniques in GIMP, which is a free open source program that runs similarly to Photoshop. That's not what I have open right now. I have Darktable open right now. Also, a free open source program runs similarly to Lightroom. If you look below in my info section, you can see the links. So you can download the different programs that I use. There's a link for the Pixels.us forum board, a huge community full of people who do all sorts of open source programming, editing, photography. There's some great people in there. So I took these photos last weekend. My friend came out. She wanted to take some good shots for a modeling portfolio. So we picked out 2 different outfits, and we wandered around Chicago for the day, and took some amazing shots, actually. These are the best 10 out of 1,500 individual snaps that I took. So we're going to be working with these, and I'm going to be showing how to do specifically skin retouching in GIMP, because high-end photography retouching, let me open up one of these real quick. So with magazines, everyone has perfect skin all the time. They just have perfect skin. But if you take a look at this photo, we're working in Darktable right now just so I can show you a couple of things of what we're working on. But there's like some inconsistencies in her skin because she doesn't like wearing foundation unless she actually has to. So we're going to be working on smoothing out some of these inconsistencies without actually losing the grain detail and any pore details like skin pores, because if you smooth those out too much, it's going to end up looking fake. So these are going to be the images we're going to be working with. I'm actually going to work with, which one do I want to work with today? We're going to be working with this one because there's there's a few different things that I want to do to retouch her face in this one. So this is the one we're going to be working with. The first thing you want to do, before you actually open up GIMP, you're going to want to open up Darktable, and you're going to want to fix color and contrast. Because you should be shooting in RAW if you want to do high-end retouching like this. So you're going to want to go through and you're actually going to fix photo. This is the photo that looks like straight out of my camera. You can't publish that. You actually have to edit your photos if you want them to look like magazines, because every magazine edits their photo. So this is what we're going to be working with. It already got edited in Darktable. I already exported it so that I can just open it right away into GIMP. So I'm going to go into the Stephanie portfolio. We're going to go into retouching. These right here are the large files, the large TIFFs that I exported, but it takes a lot of time for GIMP to read all of that data. So for this stream, I actually exported smaller versions of these photos so that I can work with them a little bit quicker, just to show you guys what's going on. Let me find the photo I wanted to work with. That's the one. It's going to ask you if you want to switch to a slightly different sRGB. Just let it do its thing. I trust programs with color because it changes. Oh, that's not. Whoa. Okay. Control O apparently opens the last. Okay. So one thing about my stream, I was actually trained in Adobe software, so my body naturally hits hotkeys that don't work in GIMP. They are not the same. So sometimes I will mess up, like Control O in Photoshop makes it so your image will fit your entire screen, but apparently in GIMP it just opens the last thing you had, which was when I was making my little Twitch things. DJ Ray, DJ's here, awesome. Oh, let me see if I can. Okay, let me bring that down. Bring that down. Is this better? Is this better? Okay, I think we're okay. We're only barely hitting yellow, so I think this should be better for everybody. On the volume. Awesome. DJ Red, hey everybody. I love you guys. I love DJ. He's amazing. He's the one that made me do this whole Twitch thing. So, no, I don't even know what tool I have open right now. Okay. So, let me zoom in on her face real quick. Okay, so when you take a photo of somebody that's not wearing makeup, you get all of this. It's not necessarily bad because that's her natural face, but that's not what people put in magazines. And these photos were taken for her modeling portfolio, so I want to retouch them so they're magazine quality. And also, I know her personally, and I know how she likes being retouched. So I don't have to worry about like someone getting mad at me for retouching their photos wrong or whatever. Normally, when I do events and stuff, I don't do skin retouching or anything because I'm working with hundreds of photos and I don't have time to sit there with each individual one. But we're going to be doing them for this, and so it gives me a little show. So we're in GIMP. The very first thing you're going to do is you're going to have your photo. You already have it nice and edited. Let me actually shut down Darktable just so it doesn't take up extra RAM or whatever. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set up what is called frequency separation. And that's where you're going to separate out between two layers the tones of your image and the details of your image. So you can work with them separately. That way when you're doing things like taking out this mark on her arm or like this pimple or like little things, you're not actually losing the actual details of the skin that make it look real. Yeah, this is a swearing stream. Are we not allowed to swear on Twitch? Like, somebody should tell me, because, like, I just say shit and, like, that. Like, I say shit a lot. And fuck and, yeah. So, if you have kids and you don't want them to hear words like that, don't let them watch my stream, because I don't censor myself.
So where is this?
So for frequency separation, we're going to need, we have the background layer. That's going to be your original image always. You're going to want to save that so that you don't ever, I mean, just so you always have the original. I like just saving the original underneath everything, so I can always go back to the very beginning of what I was working on. So you have two layers. Turn off the top layer for a second, because we're going to work with this layer. And for the low frequency, you're actually going to go into Gaussian Blur. You're just going to do a very slight blur just to... Let me zoom in just a little bit more. No, that's not the right one. Okay, I'm still learning again. Okay, let me just zoom in a little bit more on our face. We're working with a little bit of pixelation just because the photo is so big, but it'll be fine. Well, the photo should be bigger, but I'm working with a smaller version of it. Kind of want to bring in the bigger version of it, but also I don't want to sit here waiting for the program to render for a minute every time I do this. So you're going to open up your Gaussian Blur. This is all going to depend, the numbers you actually use for your blur are all going to depend on the resolution of your photo, because this 1 pixel blur does a lot of blurring on, how do I type? Okay, 0.5. 0.5 should be fine for this. 0.75. That should be good. Let me actually open up the bigger one just so I can show you. Because when you're working with different resolutions, the pixel radius on the Gaussian blur actually... is it 491? Are we in 491? No, we're in 794. That's what we're doing. This is going to take a second to open up. Let me just show you real quick. Yeah, do your color thing. I trust your judgment on colors. So on this one, we're going to zoom in. Cancel, not that. Where's my... No. Where the actual is the zoom tool? I don't know if one is the zoom tool. Let's see. Okay. Now we're okay. And now we zoom in a lot and we can actually see, like, it doesn't actually get pixelated when we're that close. You know what? Fuck it. Let's just work with the big one. That's going to be better. Discard that. I thought I could make this quicker. We're just going to work with the big photo because you can actually see, like, the individual pores on her face here and stuff. So 2 copies. Let the program do its thing. I gotta go to the 18 plus in the settings. Okay, I'll look at that. I'll look at that once I'm done with this, and I'll make sure I have that set up. Okay. So now if we go in here to the blur, the Gaussian blur, that 1.5 radius does almost nothing. Like, you can still see it blurs it just a little bit, but it really doesn't do as much as the smaller picture does. So this pixel radius is all depending on what size of the pixels we have. So we're going to bump that up maybe to like a 2 or a 3. We're going to do 2.5. Yeah, that should be good. Just enough so you can soften up the details without actually blurring, without completely blurring your edges. Just enough so you can get it to be kind of a tonal base. Let's just do this actually at 3. Let's just make that a straight up 3. That should be good. 3 is good. And it's going to do its thing. It's going to... My computer is running music, it's running OBS, it's running GIMP. It's gonna take a second because these are gigantic files. So you have your, this is what is called your low frequency. This is where you work with the picture for tone and lighting. For this high frequency, you're gonna turn that back on. You got your nice original image here. You're actually gonna go, you're gonna use a filter called high pass. For something, it's going to be filters, enhance, and you're going to use high pass right here. And it's going to turn it into like this grayscale image. But you can see it only keeps the lines and the detail elements. You can actually see if you get really close. I'll zoom in a second. This should actually be...
Is that your switch?
Do I want that a little bit more? This is kind of up to personal preference how much of the detail, but you want to be careful because some of these things are going to start ghosting at the edges. 4 should be good on that. So we'll do a high pass layer. It'll be like this gray layer that only really has the edges of stuff, but it's going to preserve your details. High pass. Finish. You done? Okay, now it's done. And then you're actually going to switch that to linear light. And turn that up. You can actually see that when you turn it on just over a base image, it enhances all of those details and brings out all of those pores. But when you have the low frequency underneath it, you can work with the lighting underneath without actually losing any of that original skin detail.
Oh, actually, it's oh, wait, no, you're far away. Never mind.
I have music in my headphones. I don't play it through speakers, so that it doesn't read through the thing. Actually, let me drop my. I got a playlist that I listen to when I'm editing. Let me drop this listen for you guys, so you can hear the music that I'm hearing. Let me drop this over here. Okay, so this is my Camera Slinger Spotify playlist. It's got a lot of gun songs in it. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to identify some of the areas that you're going to want to soften up the tones for. Things like under the eyes, you're going to want to soften up and even out. There's this little mark over here on her head we're going to want to work on. There's actually a string of hair that's going through her face right here that we're going to want to just remove completely because it's doing nobody any good. Like, same with over here, we're going to clean all of that up. So you're going to make a new layer, and you're going to make sure it has a transparency. And you're going to open that above your low frequency layer, but below your high frequency layer, so that it doesn't interfere.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. More GIMP users. Sweet. I just got tired of paying for Adobe. So you're going to want to have this empty layer above your low frequency layer, so it doesn't actually overlap any of the detail that we saved. But we can work with this. So what we're going to use to begin with is this tool right here called the clone tool. Clone tool, healing tool. Actually, no, we're going to work with the healing tool first. We're going to get a nice soft brush, so we can be careful with it. Keep this the size is going to be working on. Okay. So with the healing tool, you need to identify a source. Hey, Paper Digits, you're here. Awesome. Paper Digits is one of the people off of the Pixels forum, and they've been great so far. So for the source of the healing brush tool, like, you can actually see, like, it has a little, like, box that says you can't use it right now because you haven't identified a source. So we're going to go through here, and we're actually going to pick our source from the low frequency layer. Let me actually rename this so we can actually see. Low frequency, high frequency. Naming your layers is really important, but I forget a lot. So this actually helps me remember when I have to tell people what I'm doing. Low retouch. Okay, so we're going to want to label our source so we can start working with some of these tonal issues that we have going on. You're going to be going back and forth between these two layers a lot. To set your source, you just hold down the control key and you click a spot in the tone that you want to work with. I'm using, this brush is actually probably a little bit big for what I really need, so we're just going to lower that down a little bit. Let me zoom in just a little bit on what we're working on here so we can really see what we're doing. Yeah, I like this much better with the high quality. It's just going to take some time. With healing brush, we're going to go to low frequency, set our tone about here. We're going to go. Why is that not? This was supposed to. Okay. This is one of the mistakes that I This is one of the mistakes that I prefaced at the top. Okay. How do I do this? I know how to do this in Photoshop, but like I have to think about the steps I need to do this in GIMP. And when I worked on this yesterday, I was actually, you know what? I'll talk about that later. I'm gonna work on this. So one of the things with GIMP, I'm used to working with Photoshop, and there are 1,000,007 different ways to make sure you are working non-destructively in Photoshop. With GIMP, there's about 7 instead of 1,000,000, and they require like individual steps. And you know, I guess if I just like copy it, I guess, but whatever. Okay. We're just going to work on the low frequency layer. We're just going to do this. We're just going to make it happen. Okay, so we're on the low frequency. We got our source set. And then now when you brush it off, like that little mark on our forehead just like goes away. But you aren't losing any of the grain detail or any of the skin detail when you were working. You literally just kind of like brushed out the bad tones. The same thing over here with this hairline that's coming through, like brushing across the face. We're just gonna kind of brush that out. I'm actually gonna move my source over here so it's a little bit of a darker tone to match with it. We're just gonna brush it out. You can still see a little bit there because it's on the high frequency layer and the detail as well. But we'll work with that in a second. So we're just gonna go through. We're especially gonna go underneath the eyes. We're gonna take one of these lighter colors under the eyes and work under here and take out this darkness that's going on. I mean, because we all got dark bags under our eyes, but no magazine is going to publish that. So we just kind of smooth that out and make the transition a little less harsh, and kind of just like smooth out those tones. You're just going to keep moving through. You're going to be selecting your points and just kind of like evening out these tonal issues that we have. Even over here, like these slight smile lines that she has, we're going to want to smooth those out a little bit. Oh, not that much. Just a little bit, so that she still has smile lines, but they're not like full-on smile wrinkles sort of thing. So we're going to smooth those out. You're also going to want to do things like get rid of a little bit of like this blackheads that are going on. Just like smooth those out so the detail's a little bit better. We got like a little bit of thing going over here. Just kind of like... But as you can see, it's just kind of blending the tone, but we're not losing any of the, like, we still have full, like, color detail. This isn't like using the blend or smudge tool on this at all. So we got this going on. I actually work back and forth between the high frequency and the low frequency layer quite a bit because some of these things, like this line here, like, that line does not look that great. So we're going to go back to our heal tool. We're just going to kind of get rid of the line just a little bit. Just so you have kind of like, you have the shadows for it, but it's not like a full-on wrinkle. We're going to come up here. We're going to get rid of this line that we have. We're working on the high frequency layer right now. So it's actually moving that detail, but you're still keeping the tonal information underneath it. So it's still not a full-on blur. So you're just going to kind of go around. You're going to kind of just like grab those little areas, and you're just going to want to, it's just airbrushing them out. Why is that not going away? Oh, because that's on high frequency too, because that's a full-on dot. So we're going to want to get rid of that. These forehead wrinkles, we're going to work with, let's actually start with the low frequency. And just kind of like, yeah, because you can still see the lines in the forehead without them being full-on like shadows. So that's the kind of thing you're going to want to work with. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see the difference. I'm actually going to copy that. It's going to take a second to copy. Put that to the top so we can see, so I can flip back and forth between the original and the high frequency wavelet decompose. I have not yet using GIMP. I played around with it a little bit in Photoshop. So I've been using open source software for only probably about 6 months so far. I was trained in Adobe, but I didn't want to pay the Adobe subscription anymore. So, wow, I have 16 people here. Holy crap, you guys. That's amazing. Anyways, so I just started using open source software because when I started up my Patreon and I started making tutorials and stuff, I realized all of my friends who are supporting me aren't actually photographers and artists who would have access to this stuff. So they would need a way to follow along with me. They would need a way to follow along with me without having to pay for that. So I started learning this software, and it's been a crazy ride so far. That's why I keep messing up. But if I'm gonna look into Wavelet Decompose. I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna read some tutorials. I'm gonna watch some videos, and I'll get back to you on how well that works. And yes, Pixels at Us. They're great people. Ask them all the questions. They have all the resources. So I put the original image back on top of here. And I'm just going to go back and forth between turning it on and off. So when it's on, you can see, you know, the heavy bags. We got the marks on the face. We got the heavy lines. You just turn it off, and with even just a few brush strokes, this is already looking way more happy accidents. I actually do. I auto host Bob Ross every Monday. Happy accidents. But yeah, when you see the retouching we did with even just like a few sweeps of the tool, like already the face looks. It's still her. I didn't, you know, go and change the shape of her nose or the shape of her eyes. I just kind of like took out some of those, you know, minor, you know, flaws that, let's be real, no one really wants on their pictures anyway. Everybody's like, oh, can you Photoshop me? And I'm just like, I guess. So let's go down here. Let's take out just a little bit more of these. Like that dot is a little bit bright, so we're going to bring that down. We're going to go over here. We're going to smooth out some of these. Just so the blackheads are just a little bit less. We're just going to like smooth those out just a little bit. Not too much. You still want the detail. Like having skin detail is actually very important. Like this, like that kind of removed a lot of detail because I was pulling from this section over here that doesn't have as much skin detail. So you're going to want to pick something fairly close to what you want to work with before you start moving this heel brush around. But we're just going to soften up those the harsher points just enough so that there's still detail, but there's not as much of a contrast between it. And you can just kind of, like, you can still see the pores, you can still see the details, you can actually even still see the color grain from my, you know, from my camera, and everything. You're just lessening it a little bit. And so you just kind of, there are people, for an actual magazine cover, skin retouching takes about 10-15 hours. There are people who, you know, their entire job is to make skin look perfect while still having the detail of skin. That's a, like, literal profession in the world. So we just kind of like touch around a little bit of stuff. We just kind of like highlight the rough areas. Get over here. We're still on high frequency. Let me work with some of this low frequency. Let me, oh, that's too much. See, if you go all the way over here, it'll start pulling from the hair and stuff, and then we get these like weird, like we're bringing her entire chin over. We don't want any of that. We got to be careful about where our source is set. But let me just soften up some of these shadows. That way there's also less of a transition. And it doesn't make it look like we've been shooting in harsh sunlight, even though we've been shooting in harsh sunlight. So let's just lighten up these eyes just a little bit more. Okay. And then we're also going to want to do, you're going to continue this over like her entire, all of her skin. You're going to do this everywhere. So like over here, to get rid of this pimple, Same exact concept. You take out the tone, then you go in the high frequency and you take out the detail. Bam, pimple gone. I could have done that in Darktable, but that's not what I'm showing off today. So take that out, even out the tone a little bit. We're going to go over here. We're going to even out the tone. Let's work with that color. Even out the tone so it's not super red. This red right here I'm actually going to keep in because it's actually a reflection from her dress. And I don't want to take that away. Because that's an actual light reflection. So that's okay to have. We just want to take out some of the pimples on her chest. There was a spot on her arm. This spot right here, this can all be done in the low free. Just get rid of that whole spot. We're just not, she didn't hurt her arm. It's okay. But yeah, you're going to do this like over all of this.
I'm only half putting them up just because we're going against the...
And yes, GIMP is a little bit slower than Photoshop. But you're also not paying $700 for it. So, you know, accept it. Let's get rid of a little bit less on the tone. Actually, smooth out just a little bit of that on the high frequency too, just to... Oops. So now, turn back on. Yeah. So this was the original. We got marks on her arm. We got marks on her chest. We got heavy lines all around her face. And in just a few minutes, we smooth all of that out, and it's looking a lot closer to, you know, something we would want to publish. We're going to want to touch down here on the elbows, fix those spots. She had a bruise over here. Let's go in there. Bruise, H. H is the hotkey for the healing brush. Z is the hotkey for the zoom. To set the source, I press H I press the control with the healing brush so I can set the source and get rid of that entire bruise. We don't need bruises on our model. Models aren't rough and tumble. So right here, this is something that people would normally Photoshop. This stretch mark right here. I don't normally edit stretch marks. It's actually... So I have like a little bit of ethics in retouching. I will do the whole skin retouching thing, you know, for portfolios and stuff. But and I can easily take that out, and it really won't make a difference. But a lot of people, especially with the body positivity movement, like I'm only gonna get rid of that pimple that's right on the stretch mark. But people want to see like things that make you real out of models these days. So leaving the stretch marks in like isn't a bad thing. It's all your personal preference. I prefer to edit things that wouldn't be there otherwise. Like if you have a pimple on your chest, you don't have a pimple all the time for your entire life. It's, you know, it only happens for a few days. I have no problems getting rid of pimples. I don't have problems getting rid of, like, you know, marks on your arm. Like this over here, we can touch that up just a little bit. Get rid of that red mark. That kind of stuff doesn't exist on your body all the time. But things like stretch marks, your actual body shape, you know, the shape of your eyes, the shape of your nose, the size of your waist, things like that, I don't like retouching. You know, I'm actually even going to go here. I'm going to do her a favor and get rid of these lines. But also, this model is my friend, and I know how she likes to be retouched, so I don't have to worry about her like getting mad at me for changing some of these small details, like just lessening up the veins. Because like honestly, veins, it all depends on what lighting you're shooting in to begin with, to how they show up. So little things like that, I'm totally okay with smoothing over. But I'm not going to do the whole, like, oh, let's, oh, what did I do? No. let's, you know, make her, she's already a tiny waif. We don't need to make her look waifier. Some of this redness we can get rid of. And, like, be a little bit careful because, like, sometimes you'll start working on something, you'll be looking at really close. Like, always make sure to, like, back up out of your photo and make sure it actually looks, like, correct cohesively across the entire image. Because there are times where I'll get so focused on one spot and then I'll back up and I'll be like, oh, that doesn't even match with the rest of the photo anymore. So that'll happen. There's this little spot over here on our outfit. We had a little speck. We're gonna use, instead of using the healing brush for this, because this just kind of smooth over irregularities. That's how you pronounce that word, irregularities. We're actually going to use the clone stamp for right here. We're going to want to find a piece of the image that has this same texture that we're working with, that we can get rid of that black dot sitting there, because that's just too distracting. Let's actually make this a little bit smaller so we're only working with this one area, because then I can pull from right next to it. I am working on low frequency right now. I'm going to have to do this on both layers. Let's pull from right there. And let's bring that over. And then we're going to do the same thing here and bring that over. And bam, it's gone. Like, we just got rid of a whole black dot without actually changing the pattern or the texture of the lace, because we were pulling from a spot that was almost the exact same detail. So it'll cross-reference the two and it'll fix it up for you, but you don't have, you know, a giant black spot on your chest anymore. Let's back this up real quick. If I'm going too fast, just say something. Like, I ramble a lot. If you have questions, like, I'm still trying to, like, check the feed over here. So if you have questions and stuff, feel free to throw them out. We're gonna work over here. So this zipper over here, let me see if I can do something about this zipper. Because I don't, the black spot above the zipper I don't want. So I want to see if I can find a spot so we can get rid of that. I wonder, what's the hotkey for that? Of course it is. One thing I like about GIMP though, like almost all of the hotkeys are literally like the first letter of whatever the tool name is. Photoshop, that's not true. Like, hotkeys are weird on Photoshop sometimes. Like, the move key is V, and I'm like, but why though? So let's see if we can fix this black area just so it's a little bit distracting on this nice white and pink dress. Yeah, let's do the clone stamp. Let's make this super tiny. Let's actually reference from like right here. Let's do this. We're on high frequency. Let's see if we can just kind of like. Let's just kind of no, that's not the right space. Let's try to pull from, where's the same tone? Let's try to pull from over here. Alright, we're working on low frequency. I'm going to be pulling tones. Let's start with high frequency. Let's actually just start with that. Let's just try that out. Going back and forth happens a lot. This is just the thing that you do, because I'm going back to the healing tool right now. See if I can just kind of not like that. I don't like that. What the hell am I doing with my life? No. tiny little areas like this, I'm not like, it's not like I'm a professional magazine retoucher, so like, I sometimes fight with tiny little areas like this until I kind of just like, say, okay, that's good enough, no one's going to notice. It's not like I added a third leg in a composite or something. Okay. Let me... Okay, let me see how that looks. Let me back up real quick. Put the original back on. Let me turn that back off. And all right, it's less distracting. If you zoom in a lot, you're gonna like see these. You're gonna know that it was photoshopped. But that's why you want to step back from the individual. That's true, but then I'd have to go through all this like image layer, like layer masking. Okay, I could just like desaturate that area and go through it. Also, I don't know. Like you're gonna end up with, if you're doing proper magazine retouching, you're gonna end up with like a million layers regardless. So showing how to do it the proper way would probably have to have black spotlight and white flowers. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it like that though. It'll be fine. Let me get rid of this nonsense over here though. Let me just. What am I doing? Okay. You could make a new layer with a layer mask, and you can go and specifically desaturate that one spot and work with it specifically with a layer mask. But since it's literally like less than a centimeter on her,
No, just doing some classes.
patching it up isn't going to make
Good luck.
the whole image
Someone was asking for your
any less. Like for this image, I would actually use a layer mask for her specifically to help lighten up her and bring her out. Oh no, don't like, feel free to say things like that, because then I'm gonna go and I'm definitely gonna try them, and learning more helps. I also just only have like an hour, sometimes an hour and a half to work with at this specific point, and I'm trying to show like a specific tool. So like feel free to, backseat edit, and it will definitely be something I keep in my mind. But it's also like this one tiny little spot right here that I'm not like super concerned about when this is just an image for her. But for layer masking, I would actually take an image. I would just take, is there a way to, how do I, so in Photoshop, you can like copy a new layer by taking all the changes in the layer underneath it. How do I do that in GIMP? Where I can like take this exact picture and copy it into a new layer. Because I used to be able to hit Control Shift N. I wonder what that makes. Oh wait, new layer. Can I do? Uh, uh, okay. Yeah, because in the program, Control N is a new image. Control Shift N. Control Alt Shift N. It doesn't do anything. Okay. Sometimes, like, I just add like Control and Alt to things and hope it changes the tool. That's a few steps. I was afraid of that. There's a lot of things in Photoshop where it's just like Photoshop does it, but in GIMP you have to do like 3 steps for it. So I'm just gonna, let's see. That's a layer group. What am I doing? Okay. I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna see if there's I'm gonna figure out how to do that at some point. Because I don't wanna, wait, maybe. Okay, I'm gonna do something crazy. I know, right? I only installed like one script so far, and I haven't even really played with it. It was the gimmick stuff. Oh wait, is there a way to do it? Is there, if there's a way to do it, because otherwise I'm just gonna merge the visible layers, copy it, undo what I just did, and then repaste. Layer, new from, oh, sweet, sweet, sweet. Layer, and there's not a hotkey for it. Love it. Okay, new from, okay, now we got this. So, in order to separate her from the background image more, this is where I would start working with layer masks. I would add a layer mask. Let's do full transparency to start with. Oh, wait, no. I pressed cancel. Full transparency. Add. Okay. And then I will go in and with my brush tool on this layer mask, which is B, I think. Why is B paths? Oh, because paintbrush is P for paintbrush, not brush like in Photoshop. These are the things. Transparency. I would go through, I would take it. You really should like be more careful with your layer mask, but I'm just going to kind of do this really quick, just to show you guys. Let me make a little mask. Slash key and start typing.
Got it.
Oh shit, I didn't even know you could do that in GIMP. Okie dokie, that changes my life right there. Awesome. Amazing. Okay, let's brush some. This is gonna be like super quick just so I can like have something. But to separate her from the background, that's where I would put in a layer mask, and then I would go into something like once it finishes reading all of the presses that I pushed, never go to bed. So no, like that's honestly amazing. I'm just gonna start searching for stuff and just being like, does this exist in GIMP? Oh wow, it does. Awesome. Layer, color, shadows and highlights. Okay. So we're working on this layer. We have our layer mask applied. It's a crappy layer mask, but this is where, like, if I wanted to separate her from the background, this is where I would start playing with bringing up like heightness or highlights. And give it a second so it can show you the preview. Show us the preview. Please, Kim. Oh wait, haha. That's not gonna work though, because I still have my layer mask selected. I gotta have the layer selected, and then I can do the thing. Okay. Now let's go into shadows. And then if we bring up the highlights, we do this thing. Come on. I believe in you, Gimp. Where did you go? I didn't even press anything. Oh, there we go.
No, I'm really going.
Do the thing. Why are you not doing the thing? What happens if I just press OK? Just do it. I can always Control Z later. Alright, I'm going to shut down my music so my computer has a little bit more RAM. Do the thing.
There is a ghost ship out right now.
Come on. I believe in you. You didn't do the thing.
When I did that, the guy asked me, are you also fighting a ghost ship?
Well, we can kind of see that it did something. But that's not really what I wanted to do. Hold on. Let's go to curves. Let's do the curves. I like curves. I like curves a lot. Curves is like my favorite thing. Okay, now we can see it doing the thing. And you can see it's only making the changes on her where I have the layer mask applied. And it's a really crappy layer mask, but it's actually doing a really good job right now, and I'm really proud of you, Cam. But you can see right here, like this whole streak I didn't fill in, this over here I didn't fill in. So that's where you would go in and you would go in the layer mask and you would just apply the curves. Do the thing. And this is where I would go back into the paintbrush tool, not paths. I'm going to change my hotkeys, I swear. Although I don't really want to change my hotkeys because then like people who open up the program for the first time don't have my same hotkeys, and then I'm saying things that they don't know what I'm talking about. But then you would just go into your actual layer mask itself and you can adjust where the boundaries of your edits actually lie. So that we can actually lighten her up and bring her away from the background without affecting the background. And then we can actually do the inverse on the background and darken the background, get that extra bit of contrast that you can't get in a program like Darktable without, you know, I mean, you can sit there and draw masks in Darktable, but they're way easier to use when you're actually using like a painted on layer mask as opposed to like the drawn masks in Darktable. Like that's a whole different world. Why is my get smaller? Let's lighten up this a little bit over here. Okay. Let's do that, and then let's darken that just a little bit. Okay, whatever. It's close enough. I'll be going through and actually sitting down for like the full 5-hour session to like retouch this for her, but this is for now. So we'll actually just we'll copy that exact same layer and then I'm gonna go to the layer mask and I'm going to colors, invert.
Yeah, that's my.
And we have the layer mask selected, and it should do what I want it to do, because that's what I believe it's going to do.
Sorry, I just haven't seen it.
If it's only in the dev stuff, then I probably don't have it. I only am running like GIMP 2.0 on the stable version. Yeah, so look, we just inverted the layer mask and it just applied all of those changes that we just did to the background because I just copied the layer that I had those changes to. But that's where we would go back in and like...
I want to say apply directly at it at this point.
I would go back and fix that and just like change that again. I did watch a video of the foreground extraction tool and like it does do a really good job. I only have, what is this, GIMP 2. I think I'm running 2.1. Just because I like really dark, rich greens anyway, so this works perfectly. Like you can see that it's like overlapping her fingers a little bit. That's something we would want to fix in the layer mask and actually have like a proper layer mask. Actually the selection, yeah, I'm in 2.110. I don't have any of the developer stuff, any of that stuff rocking right now. But I would actually sit down and make like a proper layer mask. The selection tools that are available in GIMP are actually really good. They do a really good job with the selection tools and actually figuring out like your boundaries and stuff. I'm just trying to show like one tool, so I don't have time to sit here for like an hour working on layer extraction unless I was specifically showing a layer extraction. So this already, we darkened the background a little bit. We lightened up her face a little bit. We got the retouching going on. So take a look at what the original photo looked like before these changes. Everything's a lot flatter. We got like marks on the face. We got marks on the arm. We have distracting black spots on her outfit. And in, less than an hour, we are already able to make this look a lot more polished, a lot more professional, and I don't even have a proper layer mask. I didn't do, proper, item selection to get, because you can kind of still see that little mark, but it's not, it's such a small piece of the photo that you can't really tell. We do have a little bit of this like shadow overlay that we would want to touch up before the final image, things like that, but already the differences between the original image that we brought in from Darktable. Oh, see, I just zoomed out and I missed an entire section of her legs. This is why you want to zoom out on your photos and like pay attention to what you're doing. Like I have this whole section right here that's just like cut off from the light adjustments, like you can see down here. But already we're looking like way more polished on this stuff. Actually, paintbrush. Let's just brush some stuff on there. Let's just. This would be going faster if I wasn't streaming, just because my computer is also streaming at the moment. And as great as my computer is, it's also only great as of, wow, I think 4 years ago now. No, 5 years ago? I think I built this computer 5 years ago with top of the line specs. Not even like top of the line like $1,000, but like, you know, I built it from scratch with, you know, oh, that's right, I gotta change this one on this one too, because I have 2 different layers with layer mask. I could just copy and paste the layer mask. That's probably a way better than just trying to like paint it in again. Let's get rid of that. But yeah, that's the basic idea behind high frequency and low frequency, and then just like basic layer masking that you can do for just like really quick polished portrait editing. Making sure I didn't miss anything in chat. Sometimes I forget to check this chat sidebar. Are we still stuck? No, we're not still stuck. We're just, I was just cancel. Off that. Paint that. Yeah, that's where we fix that. Fix her leg. Whatever. I'm gonna come back to this later. I'm gonna have to sit down and like really work on editing these photos to begin with anyway. But like you can like there's, you know, the layer masks work wonders for actually like controlling where your changes are being made. Are there any questions about just the high frequency and the low frequency stuff right now? Let me actually turn those masks back off and just kind of like work with this stuff. Oh, and now I already like it less because I started retouching it more. Dang. I'm just going to keep it. I like it better this way. This looks way better this way. I just got to fix her legs. Yeah, I kind of went through this really fast. I kind of stumbled around through some bits. Is there anything that you guys want to like see again, or that wasn't really clear, or because it's almost 8:50 now. This is when I start opening up for questions, comments, suggestions, etc. I really only do this for about. I've only been doing this for about an hour. Because I usually only have like one tool that I really want to show off, and it usually takes about an hour to walk through it. So that's kind of been my setup so far. I'll probably be extending the streams a little bit longer, like now that I actually have I have 11 people here, sitting here and watching me. Like last week I had 1, and that was, you know, so this is already great for me. Oh. So I gotta work on that one too. Lols. Does X do the X does do the thing. X still works correctly. That's awesome. Let's get rid of these shadows. Yeah, I kind of went through stuff. I go through stuff like really fast, so let's just. This is like the most sloppy layer masking. Like, don't do what I do with this layer masking. Like this, honestly, I should have used the selection tool and done all this properly, but it would have taken me like an extra 20 minutes to do properly. So I'm just kind of like lulzing my way through at this point. Yeah, let's just bring out all of that. Whatever. Stop making it look like she has, like, I'm trying not to add more bruises to her skin. We just fixed her bruises. working on 2 different layers right now, and it's driving me insane. Okay, this is fine. This is fine. Everything is fine. I'm like, just gonna keep painting because like this is my life now. There are sometimes like I'll start editing and I start editing like sloppy and wrong, and then I realize that I don't want to start over. Oh no. I don't want to like start over and fix my mistakes, so it's not because of that. Or is that just like a giant sunspot on her leg? I feel like that should be not as harsh on that edge. What? It's probably my layer masks. Like, let's be real. My layer masks are sloppy. Alright, where's Javo with the questions? Javo's always got a good question for me. Javo, where are you at?
Megalodon, I think. Is that Megalodon?
PBR. It's a blue ribbon beard. Alright. Yeah, that's kind of like the basics of the high frequency and low frequency stuff. Now that we actually have the image lighted up, I would actually, personally, I would actually go back through it again. Oops. And just double check my areas, because when you start lighting up an image and start messing with like color and contrast, you're going to want to see you're going to see more areas that you're going to want to like kind of adjust and work with. This is why magazine editing takes so long. Like, it's, you know, it's a lot of process work. Let me actually, I'm going to get, I know that like this mole probably actually exists on her like permanently, but also I know her and she doesn't like her moles, so I'm going to get rid of that because she's my model. Except I can't change the high frequency and the low frequency stuff because I got these layer masks up here. Okay. Is there a way? Retouch first or last? I retouched last. Okay, hold on. Question first. Javo's question. So you went over a few different techniques. Were you considering revising any of that next week, or do you already have a plan for what tool you wanted to show off? I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to be doing next week. I'm going to see how retouching these photos works. I'm going to see like what, because I got to work on a bunch of her photos, so I'm going to see what I work with. If I start to learn more techniques, like Paper Digits mentions the wavelet, what was wavelet decompose. I'm going to play around with that a little bit. If it's something that I really like, I'll probably show that off. So I do not have a plan yet for what tool I'm going to show off next. And then Paper Digits, I actually retouch last most of the time, because what I do for my photography work is usually like entire albums of work. Like I'll go to an event and take like hundreds of photos, so I won't sit there and retouch those photos. I'll actually be working in Darktable the entire time, because Darktable also has spot removal tools. It has basic masking tools, so I can adjust you know, background and foreground things with the parametric masks. Yes, for this, yeah. I retouching like on skin would be the last thing that I would ever do on a photo, because I wouldn't want to get it as close to what I want it to be in Darktable before I have to bring it into GIMP and start working with, you know, individual pixels. I would want all of the color and the lighting and the tone to be about what I want it to be before I have to be here. Because otherwise I'm going to be sitting here with these layer masks when honestly I could have just done a parametric mask in Darktable and fixed this whole, you know, background foreground lighting thing before I ever brought it into GIMP. So, like, skin retouching would literally be the last thing I would ever do. I just wanted to show it off for this stream, and I had photos that were in the middle of being edited. So that's kind of the workflow for that. Actually, next week, I think I'm going to show off parametric masks in Darktable, because I was playing around with those the other day, and oh my god, they make things so easy. I think I'm gonna do parametric masks next week because I love Darktable. I love Darktable way more than I ever loved Lightroom. I ever since switching to open source, like I have not actually found a need to use GIMP for my basic albums that I publish. I didn't have to open it at all. When before, I would like open up Photoshop for every single photo and drive myself insane with all of these files and, you know, working with them like that. But because even Darktable even has the high pass mask if I want to like do selective sharpening on the edges. Darktable, I love Darktable like so much. Like everything about this program is been way better for my workflow than Lightroom has ever been. Like you can even add grain, you can do softening, like you got a whole bunch of stuff that you can do right inside of Darktable that you never have to open it up another program for. So I think next week I'm going to go over parametric masks because those saved my life. Like, not literally, because it's a computer program, but yeah, I absolutely love parametric masks. Um, and a parametric mask would make these two layer masks that I was working with completely irrelevant. So like I wouldn't even need these two layers working with it. I would just need to work with the high frequency and the low frequency layers to touch up those skin details. That's all I would need. Um, so I'm actually going to save this just so I have it. Save as. Save your work frequently. Stephanie794. That sounds great. Let's do that. Let's just save that just so I have it. Yeah, it's been about an hour. I usually do this for about an hour, and then I get hungry and need another beer. And then I'm just like, I need to go get food and another beer. So I'm gonna do that. It was amazing today. It says I have 11 people watching, and I hope you all learned something, or at least were entertained by my many happy accidents. We don't have mistakes. We have happy accidents. Awesome. Very entertained. Very good. So yeah, that's the basics of how you work with skin retouching while still keeping that skin detail. Was really what I wanted to show off today. So it was great having you all here. I cannot wait to come back next Wednesday because I'm actually now excited to show off the parametric masks because honestly they're super cool. And that's gonna be a good time. So yeah. Everybody have a great night. It was great to be here, and I'm just gonna press the stop streaming button because I don't know how to leave these things. Bye.